Listen.
Listen.
Listen now.
Listen now.
Listen
again to the sounds of this slow flowing.
Listen to the voices of
this untrue island. Listen to the nest.
It speaks dark.
It speaks wave. It speaks rust. It speaks lichen. Hear the nest. It speaks bullet. It speaks ruin. It speaks red chain. It speaks deception. It speaks pagoda.
It speaks transmission. It speaks deception.
So a couple of years ago, Duncan Kent, who's the warden out on Orford Ness, came to me and said that he was beginning to brew a new project, and that the main protagonist, as it were, was going to be Arnie Somogyi, a double bassist and jazz musician, and he wanted to commission or develop a piece that would involve text and music and some visual aspect. And I'd been out on the Ness many times before. I knew Dunk from earlier visits, and I'd written about it and was fascinated by it, and still find it an inexhaustibly interesting place. So I said, yeah, sure. The Ness doesn't allow you a single interpretation. It's such a very strange and multiple place. It's got the military and the natural and the geological and all of these different languages. So I decided, talking to Arnie very early on, we wanted two things. We wanted to create a piece that was alert to the way the Ness changes itself the whole time. It's an amazingly dynamic environment. It shifts its own form with winter storms, and it's always changing. So we wanted a piece that was part improvised, and that's where Arnie's music answered brilliantly. We also wanted a text, at least, that was alert to all the different languages of the Ness, all the gull speak and the flint speak and the human voices as well that have lived on it and responded to it over the centuries. So that's what I really tried to concentrate on, was a way of letting the voices of the Ness, natural and human and mineral, speak through.
Shingle hush from size welter naze, Merlin's fast hunting on lantern marsh, ice beginning. It's evening glaze. It's quite bizarre, actually. I find it like, perhaps, how I would imagine landing on Mars to be. A little bit. Very spacey. Interesting. There's a weight to it. It's hard to put your finger on, but there's a kind of weightiness in it because of its bleakness and its history, you know.
There, the white hiss of storm lamp, the gold swing of tulip beam, the red flare of rifle, the grey strip of shingle. Always storm-filled sea.
There's songs in it, there's sounds, and then there's also kind of telling little different stories that Rob's written down about the Ness and trying to conjure the atmosphere you know, in an interesting way. And I think that with music as well, the performance of it is a really important side, aside from just listening.
Well, Arnie called me up to be involved in this project. He was very keen for us to really spend a lot of time walking around and getting a feel for the place, because it is quite an unusual place, and it has a lot of quite tangible things to react to, sort of sound world, which is very strong. And the things that's really tied this project, or helps this project be tied together, is the text, Rob Macfarlane's text, and that talks a lot about the Ness in all its different sort of ways it manifests itself, really.
The Ness is its own kingdom with its own rules, a place to improvise.
The Ness is a place where you have to, it's best if you kind of let it get under your skin a bit rather than go there expecting things to happen. So, because it's a strange place, spending time here, attuning myself to the sounds of the Ness. I'm making quite a few recordings actually which have been put together into these sound beds that are played behind the music and the words. Rob and I spent a couple of days here working together, and then I came up here on my own, made some recordings, did some improvisations, and as well as having these soundscapes that you never know what's going to happen out there. You will hear other sounds obviously, but we'll try and keep our ears open to those as well. So it's something that can change performance.
That is the sound of the Ness, the sound of the sea, the sound of the shingle, and the sound of secrets. Don't look, don't tell, don't understand, don't ever remember. For this is the island of silence. This is Boffin Beach. 80 years of tinkering and shooting and bombing, of shaking and measuring and jamming.
We were commissioned to make a work in response to the Ness, make an artwork that could be housed on the island with low maintenance and for the month of July. And this kind of presented a challenge in a way that we were most intrigued by the labs and their state of almost kind of ruin in a sense. So the question was how to house something in a ruin and keep it for that length of time. The title of the installations is Blind Landing, and so what you're kind of picking up here is almost the sound of the impact of metal on in the central part, the centrifuge. The rest of the sound was recorded from the atmos of the buildings, but also from the vibrations in the bomb ballistics building as well. These buildings are very epic in their own way and quite majestic, and so the idea of installing something inside them, it required something that was quite subtle and quite minimal. As buildings, they're literally built and redesigned to measure. It was very intriguing for us to have literally our measures in buildings which are specifically giant measures in terms of what they did. The yardsticks were used as measures in the 30s and 40s for set building in terms of the film industry. And so we really wanted to kind of bring in this sort of filmic reference as well, but also the fact that, we don't really measure in yards so much anymore. Really, the references, like Jane said, it's more metaphorical than literal in a sense. I mean, there was the Blind Landing Experimental Unit, which was an RAF woodbridge, which is not far from here. But in combination with the National Trust here, we've managed to kind of open the sculpture trail, which wouldn't normally be open. So it's a site that really, generally speaking, the public wouldn't be encouraged to walk around. So that I hope that's had some impact, on the community there, that they've been able to kind of see some of these buildings in a way.
It speaks fluent and fluent. It speaks
utmost secret. It speaks swift current. It speaks broken signal.
It speaks swift current. It speaks broken signal.
It speaks shifting shingle.
It speaks precarious wisdom.
It speaks rapid fire.
Untrue Island is quite literally Orford Ness itself, but that's taken an inspiration for the various deceits, misinformation, disinformation that has been spread about the island quite deliberately or just spreads organically. And that has been a title that has been used now for our art project for 2012. There's been a community engagement manager called Elaine Tribley, and she's arranged an extensive series of community events taught by Louise Wilson at University College Suffolk. Walk and talk for local artists with Jane and Louise Wilson on the site, and Rob Macfarlane has hosted a group of local writers going out to see him at Cambridge and talk to them, and Arnie has done gigs in Orford, one at Orford School in particular, and worked with the children there. And we've used local artists as well, working with the children in Orford School to engage them about the project. And Elaine has also been working with our volunteers to record their responses to the work here and to the previous art projects on the Ness.
My name's Elaine Tribley, and I'm working with Commissions East and the National Trust as the education consultant on the Untrue Island project. And today I've been working in Orford Primary School. We've divided the day up, so I've been working with the 3 classes, very small primary school, it's only 55 pupils. And what I've been doing is focusing on the visual art aspect of the project, so looking at Jane and Louise Wilson's work that's been installed onto the Ness, and taking the ideas from that into the classroom. So what we've been doing is creating our own miniature landscapes from the landscape, so using all natural materials, and all 3 classes created very different landscapes with that information. So from our natural materials, they all created their own natural landscapes and their own Untrue Island.
Dog winks down, stars back scatter. Ghost ship glows, the shingle discovers its angle of